Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Romich.
And Rabbi, we have a very special guest with us today. You know, we always like the folks from the law enforcement community, and we have someone from a little bit west of Albany in Schoharie County, the Sheriff of Schoharie County, Tony Desmond. So welcome to the Jewish View. It's a real honor and privilege and pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here.
One of the things I would ask, because like Mark says, you're not really the big city. I mean, is crime less than, because you always hear big city crimes, New York, LA, even though Albany is not as big, but maybe, people are more law-abiding in the farm areas.
Well, unfortunately, that's not true. We have our share of crime. Thankfully, we don't have a lot of murders. We haven't had a murder, but one in the last 6 years.
That's pretty good.
So we have property crimes. That's a big thing. People breaking into homes, breaking into camps, kids doing shoplifting in different places, but we don't have a lot of violent crime. Although we do have a lot of domestic violence and things like this, we're not really a place that we have to worry about serious assaults.
But you do have a SUNY campus in Schoharie County in Cobleskill.
Yes, we do, but the SUNY Cobleskill has their own police department. Very well trained, very well equipped. And,
what can they do? I never heard of that. SUNY has their own police?
Yes, they
I always saw security guards, but what can they do? Could they arrest somebody?
They used to be security guards. Now they're bona fide police officers.
Really? How do you like that?
Go to training, and they have...
Are they under the troopers? Or?
No, they're under SUNY Cobleskill or SUNY System Police.
Okay.
There's this system, and they're a big factor in our county. A lot of employees. They bring a lot of people in from out of the area to attend to college there, and it's a beautiful campus.
How many people do you have in the sheriff's department? How many employees?
We have approximately 50. We have a road patrol. We have a corrections division. Although we don't have a jail now, we still have corrections officers to process inmates which are committed to the custody of the sheriff. We have a 911 dispatch center which handles all the emergency fire, ambulance, police calls for Schoharie County.
How many civilian employees as opposed to law enforcement employees?
Civilians, we have 5 civilians.
Okay.
Clerks, working with pistol permits, which is a big hot item today. And at the courthouse, the Schoharie County Courthouse, we have 5 corrections / court security officers that work down there and provide the security for the judges and the people coming into
Why don't you have a jail? Because economically, maybe there's just, like I say, there's not enough crimes to afford a jail?
We could fill it up. Prior to August 28, 2011, we did have a jail. And we were able to bring inmates from other counties in and get paid for having them there.
Good.
And the day of August 28th, we had a flood, which wound up putting 8 feet 9 inches of water in my office and the rest of the first floor. The day before, we were on track to make $1 million in boarding income.
From other counties?
Yes. The day after the flood, we were on track to lose $1 million a year, and we have.
What a difference a day makes.
It made a big difference.
There was a major flood that they're talking about always.
Yes, sir. It was a very major flood. It devastated parts of the village of Schoharie, devastated down in the valley. They call it the Schoharie Valley. And it just caused a lot of problems. Anywhere that was low got flooded with water.
It was terrible, and they still didn't build it up. That's why I hear that.
So
No.
how many beds was your jail?
We had 84 beds.
84. And how many would be Schoharie County residents that would fill it up at any time?
Well, it varies. It varies
obviously,
depending.
but is it 10? Is it 20?
No, it would average between 28 and 32 right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And because we, in the last few years, we've seen a big influx of female prisoners.
Really?
Get involved with, they get involved with drugs. They get involved with all kinds of stuff.
So when you now you send your inmates to Albany County, Do you check on those inmates at Albany County to make sure that they're being treated properly?
We do get information if they complain about some problem.
Right, but
And
you
we
don't-
look into it, and we confer with the people in charge at Albany
But you
County.
don't have someone going over to the county jail on a regular basis to check on your property,
Nope.
your
No,
inmates?
we don't check on them, but we do go down there on a regular basis to transport inmates back to the courts, back to meet with their
Right.
lawyers and things like that.
Any danger in that transportation, or you got it
I
pretty
think
well?
there is. I'll
Yeah.
be honest with you. I think it's a 38-mile one-way trip. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 inmates in a car going to Albany County. So we always require at least 2 corrections officers to transport
Right.
all the way to Albany County.
And so it's 38 miles one way,
Yes,
so
sir.
these officers have to go 72 miles. I mean,
Yes.
it's, yeah.
Whatever that is, yes, sir.
yeah. 76 miles.
Yes.
So but that takes a chunk of the day. I mean, that's like a 3-hour chunk of time?
It
or-
does, because once they take them down there, well, first thing that happens,
They're
they,
not waiting at the door for the officer to come, let's put
No.
it that way.
But
So
we-
they need them to be processed out.
we process inmates in when they come to Schoharie County.
Yeah.
And the Commission of Corrections says we can keep an inmate, and we built 2 little holding cells.
Right.
Certainly not jail cell, but holding cell. We can keep an inmate there for up to 4 hours, and then they have to be moved out to a
You mean
regular.
you have to? I mean, according to the law? Or
According to the New York State Commission of
Really?
Corrections, yes.
How do you like that?
They control the jails.
So you had this, the jail was built on a floodplain? It was built on a low point on land, or is that what happened? And no one knew when the engineers and,
Well, they knew there was a possibility for flooding, and there was flooding since the jail's been located on there. In 2006, we had a jail, but there was only inches of water.
uh-huh,
This time,
yeah.
it was just a total disaster, not only for the jail, but for the county office building.
Right.
And people, my grandson, his mom and stepdad, they lost their house, wiped out with water.
Oh, yeah,
Like
Pete
many others.
Lopez lost.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, the assemblyman, so,
So why is there any, why is like, now it's 6 years since that happened?
Yeah.
Is there any idea of rebuilding? Say you're losing money anyway, so.
Yes, we
Because
want to
it-
rebuild, because by law, the county, every county in New York State needs a jail, but we are under so many kinds of rules and regulations. You can't put a jail or a building back in the same location.
Right.
You can, but if you take federal money to build in that location where the building was destroyed, if it happens again, that's your one chance. You got
Right.
money one time from the
well,
government.
that's like insurance. When
Yeah.
you get a flood, if you don't replace what they give you the money for, they're not going to give you money again when the same thing happens again. It's the insurance policy
Yeah.
says that. So what I'm asking is that in the 6 years, intervening 6 years, couldn't you find high ground in Schoharie County to build I mean, it doesn't have to be in the county seat, does it?
It doesn't have to be,
No.
no, but it would be best if it was, because that's where the courthouse is and everything, and transportation time.
Okay.
We struggled
Must be high ground.
with FEMA for
Yeah.
quite a while to get funding, and finally last year they did come up with funding. So we looked at places, but then you have to go through a lot of seeker process,
Right.
checking
Environmental
for
reviews,
environmental
yeah.
stuff. And one place we really thought would be a good spot had some environmental concerns.
But in the intervening years, I mean, can't you do that and then have it shovel-ready for when the money comes?
Well, it costs money to do the study, to be honest with you.
But there are businesses that would wait because they know, I mean,
I know, I understand that, and I hear the same thing every time I go to Walmart's,
Yeah.
I go to the grocery store.
Yeah,
Are you back in your jail yet? I mean, got a jail.
right.
So every day, it's a struggle for the people that work in the county jail. We're on the second floor. We don't have the proper office space.
Right.
We don't have, well, the way the building is now, we don't have the proper heating, and cooling, so like a day when it's warm, it's going to be hot in this part of the office.
Sure.
Then they adjust it. That's just the opposite in the other part. So you can't just go in and turn a thermostat on, you're going to be comfortable in a half hour.
So you don't feel like that times are fleeting? You feel that you're doing what you need to do in the proper timing?
The people that work in
For you?
the jail,
Yeah.
work for me, have been over and above anything you could ask. I mean, they're not working in the proper circumstances. And I have to thank them very much, because after the flood even, it was just a total disaster. The little village of Schoharie wiped out on parts
Yeah.
of it. And I asked the correction officer, can you go down and will you go down and patrol on foot the streets in Schoharie? People's houses are wide open.
I understand, but I'm talking really about this situation, because it seems like, when you want to build a store, they go up really fast.
Yes.
They know how to build this stuff. BBL Construction, I used to work for BBL Construction, and, they build jails, and they know how to put in all that security. They got it down to a science.
Yes, sir. First thing, if you build a store, that's private enterprise, and as you
Okay.
probably know, private enterprise can run a lot
But they
smoother.
also have built several
Yeah, sure.
jails.
And we do
BBL,
have,
so.
we do have plans drawn up. It's just that we haven't been able to find a location that would meet the,
So what happens if you never find the location? You got to move it out of the county seat.
well, where we're looking now is places to move it out of the county seat.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody, you have a flood recovery coordinator
Right.
run that. You have board of supervisors
Yeah.
involved in it, and trying to get everybody together.
Too many
as you may
chefs
guess,
spoil the broth.
you're not going to get,
Okay.
all right, that's what we're going to do. Everybody's got an idea. People in the community have their own ideas. People in the community don't want a jail in their backyard, if you can
Yeah, not
realize that.
NIMBY, yeah.
So, it's very, I want to see it built as soon, I wanted to see it built 4 years
But
ago.
isn't there some farm that doesn't exist anymore, that's wasteland, that, they may want to put a solar farm on there, and they might want, I mean, in the agricultural community, we talk about all these, how fewer farms we have now than 10 years ago. Is Schoharie County devoid of that, or?
No, we still have vacant farms that used to
So
be
then-
productive family farms. Right now, we have 3 locations
Yeah,
that are farmland. 2 of them are still producing crops,
Yeah.
but no animals. But one of them is not doing anything right
anything,
now.
right, okay.
And that is a favorite spot, because we want to see,
It's high ground.
it's high ground, and it's east
Right.
of the Schoharie River. So if we get another flood,
Right.
we don't have to cross any bridges over the Schoharie River to get out of there.
So
We can just go up and go to Albany County, go wherever we need to.
And what town is that in?
That's in the town of Schoharie.
Oh, it is still?
Yes.
In the town of Schoharie?
It's
Okay.
about 5 miles from the present jail.
Okay. Well, not the greatest, but it's
It
doable.
won't flood there. I
Right.
mean,
So then how soon do you see a jail being finished, constructed, finished, and taken care of?
well, I'll tell you, I do not believe that there'll be a jail in Schoharie County in this decade. It's going to be,
After 2020?
yes. It's going to take probably a year of design and studying the properties, then 2-year construction.
Okay.
Although we do have plans for a jail.
I know, 2020 sounds so far away, but it's so
It's
around
not.
the
It
corner.
goes fast.
So the older you get, the faster
Yes,
it goes.
yes, sure.
Okay. So let me ask you about other programs that you run out of the Sheriff's Department. The Yellow Dot program?
Yes, we have the Yellow Dot
What
program.
is that?
The Yellow Dot program is a small yellow dot
Right,
that
okay.
people can put onto the driver's side rear window of their
Right.
car,
And
and they have a brochure they can fill out their.
what does it tell you?
Well, it tells you that these people may have a medical condition or something.
Oh,
So if
okay.
they're in an accident
Yeah.
and then they can't speak,
Okay.
you fill out this information on a card, put it in your glove compartment, so when the first responders come and see
The yellow dot, they know to look in the
They
glove
know to
compartment.
look in there.
Okay.
And if you're older and you don't drive, you can put the yellow dot on your front door, your front window of your house, and fill out the pamphlet and put it in your freezer. So the responders know, go and see what all the problems are. It's a
Okay.
very popular program, I'll tell you.
I'm sure. Now, you don't just have road patrols, but you have snowmobile patrols?
Our 6 of our road patrol deputies are qualified to be snowmobile patrol.
Is there that much snow in Schoharie County? I mean, certainly not
In
this winter.
a
but-
normal year,
Yeah.
there is plenty of snow and plenty of room for snowmobiling.
Really?
Snowmobile is a very popular sport.
What towns are good for snowmobiling in Schoharie County?
Every town in Schoharie
Really?
County. There's a large trail system that's maintained by the snowmobile clubs. There's not only people from Schoharie County riding them, but they come in from other counties because the trails connect. So you could go 120 miles a day on a snowmobile, just riding a
And
trail.
what are your police force looking for injuries? People topple over, they
Well, yes, that's
they
a
hit
big-
something?
And what you get is a lot of people, they don't register or insure their snowmobiles. They're driving on other people's property with
Which
that.
is illegal.
Yes, and our rescue portion of it, we work closely with the Schoharie County Search and Rescue Team, and we have had missions where we went out and brought people in.
What was, the county sheriffs had their conference recently. What did you learn from that conference? What were some of the big issues?
Well, I went to 2 conferences. One was in New York State Sheriff's Conference up here in
Desmond.
Colony.
The Desmond.
The Desmond,
There you go,
unfortunately.
named after you.
You know, if it was named after me, we wouldn't have had to pay a fee to be there. But it was very good. You work with a lot of sheriffs from throughout the state. You
Yeah.
you
Well,
listen
what
to them.
issues did you learn about?
One of the big issues I learned there was about animal abuse. Being in a rural county, there's all kinds of animals, and sadly, and I enjoy animals, I like animals, they're not treated right by people, for either because people don't know how, they're out of control with the number of animals they have, or they just don't care.
So it's more than cow tipping.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're talking about more than cow tipping, because
Yes.
that's what I normally think of when I hear animal abuse. You know, cows sleep standing up, so kids come along and they tip the cow over while they're sleeping. Oh, you never heard of that?
No.
Oh.
I'm a city slicker over there.
So am I, you know. Okay, so,
But and that was a big thing, and it's I think animal abuse is getting more attention now than it has in the past for whatever
sure. I mean,
reason.
it's big in Fulton County. I mean, you hear about these stories coming out of Fulton County.
Yeah.
I never heard of an animal abuse case in
Oh,
Schoharie.
we had animal abuse case where, and I don't want to make people feel bad out there, but we had an animal abuse case where a guy left 2 dogs and 3 large snakes in his trailer and just left it.
Uh-huh.
No heat in there. The dogs were outside, the snakes were inside, and they were so cold. And if you ever notice a snake, it's round.
Yeah.
These snakes were so hungry and so cold that they looked like a belt. They were flat.
Flat.
We had to take them to the animal shelter.
Yeah.
And those people are great in Schoharie County.
Sure.
Schoharie County Valley Animal Shelter, those people are great. We had to take those snakes there and the dogs. And the snakes, what they did, they let them warm up. They were dehydrated, and they went and bought Gatorade and wiped the Gatorade on them.
And it absorbed through their skin.
And it brought them back, and they livened up within 5-6 hours.
Really? That's fun.
And it was a cool thing, you know. Plus people, but you know, they're animals. They came back, and they're somebody's pets now. But I don't know who has them. And we had a case of cat hoarding,
Uh-huh. Oh,
which
really?
was very
Okay.
sad.
But it sounds to me like it's not rampant in the county, this animal abuse. It's not
Well, it's not rampant, not every-
You say, oh, it's a case here, a case
Yeah.
there, this year, a few years later, you know, it's not like,
And we're missing some cases too.
yeah,
So, you know,
okay.
we're not getting reported. on
So
all.
Sharon Springs,
Yes, sir.
now you were the town supervisor of the town of Sharon.
That's
But there's
correct.
the village of Sharon Springs.
Yes, sir.
And I find that there's a large Jewish community, or there was a large Jewish community in Sharon Springs, because they like Saratoga Springs, they like the spring water. The same thing with Sharon Springs?
Yes, back in after the Second World War, 50s and 60s, there was a big summertime population of Jewish people coming in for the sulfur baths, for just relaxing and just being there. As things moved down, well, things went downhill in Sharon, but other things grew up in Saratoga Springs, where they got gambling and they got things. There wasn't so much of that. There wasn't any of that there. Although at one time in the 50s, there were some of those hotels. They had bar rooms in them. They had ballrooms in them.
Right.
And it was beautiful. My wife worked there when she was in high school. My sons worked there when they were in high school, like several other people.
And
they had good
there's still a
jobs.
synagogue in Sharon Springs, one or two. There's.
Not that it's active.
I didn't say it's active,
no.
but there's still a keeper of the keys for a synagogue that's in Sharon Springs. And it's on my website, jbiztechvalley.com, selfless plug. But there's also, it's kind of down a narrow road, you have these homes that become synagogues for the Jewish community that they have. I mean, you notice I was there a few years ago, and it was all of a sudden in August or July or August, you'll see that there's all of a sudden a shtetl, maybe.
There are people still going there?
Yeah,
I went there even more years ago.
But it's more of a house that's converted into like a Chabad.
Well, they had like a hotel there, I remember. That's years ago.
Right, years ago it's the hotel, but now it's so small that now they just have this gated, this community that's just cordoned off, and it's down a narrow road, and you know what I'm talking about?
Because Saratoga Springs is built up, like you say, and Sharon Springs is...
What street is that?
That would be down probably on Willow Street.
Willow Street, exactly. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Because the
rooming
rooming houses...
Building up, I'm you're the sheriff, you're not the county executive.
No, he was the town supervisor.
All right, but
so
now
he knows
he's the sheriff.
Schoharie like the back of his hand.
Can't ask him to build it up, I mean...
Well, right now, there is work being done there to make it into a Korean spa.
Oh, really?
They're fixing up the old bathhouse. See, these old buildings have been there since the 20s, and they all have the asbestos in it.
Oh, really?
So you have to get that out. And the Adler Hotel was a beautiful, large...
What hotel?
Adler.
Adler, yes.
Beautiful. The Columbia Hotel, beautiful. But they're deteriorating so bad that I don't even think they can be replaced. I think they'll have to be taken
I mean,
down.
the mold and everything.
Everything.
It's
They're just disasters.
just level it and...
I'm afraid that's what's
Well,
going
there is
to...
potential to build it up, though.
Oh, sure,
because it
there
has
is.
so many natural resources, you know, like Saratoga, the springs. So you have the springs, so maybe it'll get full circle and come back up.
And you're not that far from the casinos. People like to go to the casinos. You know, they can. And now with Schenectady, they can stay there, have a bus trip down, bus trip back. See, a railroad used to come right in Sharon.
From New York?
No, it came in. Well, it was a Cherry Valley branch of the Delaware and Hudson, and it would come up out of Copasco, stop at the railroad depot, passenger cars. People would get off, take them down to hotels.
Now, you mentioned earlier about the gun proliferation in Schoharie County. You mentioned that you provide pistol permits and that your office takes care of that. What would be your position on the SAFE Act?
I am totally against the SAFE Act, and more so now than ever. Because if you know, when the first SAFE Act came out, it was to do away with assault weapons. That was a problem throughout the country. And there was also a little part in there about recertifying your pistol permit.
Right.
Well, now you have to recertify your pistol permit if you had it before 2013. And the problem is that it would go back to the 1940s when they started issuing pistol permits.
Right.
So you have people whose grandfather had a pistol permit. He's passed on. Nobody knows where his pistol permit is, much less knowing where his pistol is, trying to find that. You have other people that's had a pistol permit since 1955. It's a paper permit. They folded it up and had it in their wallet for all these years. Then they get a letter that they got to renew their pistol permits and stuff. They open it up. They can't read they can't read their pistol number, and they can't read what weapons are on it. So they got to come to us to see if we can find the records. And it's just a very time-consuming process.
Well, let me tell you something that I just found out about that came out of the SAFE Act, is school security. Now all this money, because you're talking about terrorism, and you're talking about JCCs and yeshivas and other Jewish schools, they need the security aid.
Yes.
So they're taking it from, the SAFE Act has a clause in there that allows money to be given to school security and private schools. So it's a benefit for the Jewish community. We didn't expect that, but unintended consequences, and it's a shame that we need to do this, but the governor announced recently $25 million for school security. So.
Well, and that's something that's very close to my heart. We have 6 school districts in Schoharie County.
Yep.
And nobody wants to come up with any money to let us put a police officer in a school, even if it's only each school 1 day a week.
Well, maybe that'll be through the SAFE Act.
I would, whatever it was, I'm for.
Maybe you could make that connection. I'm here to help.
Yes.
And I'm not even from the government.
And we have Camp Ura. I don't know if you ever heard of Camp Ura.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, they're in our county, 2 places.
That's very Jewish. That's a very Jewish.
Boys' camp and a girls' camp.
Yeah, sure.
And where is this?
The girls' camp is in the town of Gilboa.
Yeah.
And the boys' camp is in the town of Jefferson. The boys...
Gilboa is not in Schoharie.
Yes, sir, it is.
Oh, it is? Okay,
Yes.
that's by Delaware County? It's
right on the border with
Delaware. That's why I thought.
Yeah,
okay.
it's right on the border there. But we go down there, we know the people.
Oh, good.
And they have some concerns, obviously.
Yeah. Well, in Delaware County, they have this little terrorist organization there in Islamaville or something.
Yeah.
So that's why they're so close to that. I mean, relatively speaking, 10 miles, whatever.
See, the boys' camp, that used to be a big ski resort area.
Uh-huh.
If I was there before it was the boys' camp, I remember. When the summertime, they made it a nice little thing also.
Yeah.
I was there in the summer. I don't go skiing.
You can't ski now, but it is a nice camp, and they get a lot of young people there.
Now, explain, there's something that's really interesting about how you got into the sheriff's race. Because you got into the sheriff's race as a Democrat, but you're not a Democrat, but you couldn't get on the Republican line. And what drove you to really be from a town supervisor to be sheriff?
Well, it's a long story.
Okay.
Prior to being town supervisor, I was in the state police for 28 and a half years.
Oh, okay.
Then when I retired, I was just going to retire and take it easy, a lot of fishing, a lot of everything. Then I was asked to run for supervisor.
Oh,
I said, well,
my wife went on the shoulder.
My wife went to the caucus, and she come home and she said, they just nominated you to run for supervisor. So that's the way it was.
Uh-huh.
So I ran. I spent 10 years as a supervisor and the town supervisor and on the county board of supervisors.
As a Republican?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So all of a sudden, it becomes a sheriff's election. I'm still on the supervisors, feeling like I'm doing a good job. And then people came up to me and they wanted me to run for sheriff. I said, I'm not going to run on the Republican ticket because I think you got a man that's already set up to run. So I said, I don't want to go to a caucus and get beat. They said, well, then you can go to another party. I says, well, I don't want to go to a caucus and get beat and then go to another party and people say, well, he was a bad loser,
Oh, you're politically astute, aren't you?
Yeah. So I was approached. I ran as a Democrat against a hand-picked Republican candidate who'd been with the sheriff's office for a number of years. During the election, I won, just barely, but you only need one vote to win.
That's right.
And I took the job.
Right. But you needed a Wilson Pakula to get on the Democratic line because you were an enrolled Republican.
Yes,
or were
I
you
was.
a blank?
I took
you needed permission from the party.
Yes, and I went to the caucus. I talked to the committee people, and they agreed that they would support me. Maybe not that much financially, but they would support me. And I won. And then as things go on, some people who are very astute with the political system says, Tony, says, you run as a Republican this time? So I did. I mean, campaigning is a little tough when you go up and talk to somebody and say, hey, will you, no, I don't want anything to you. You change all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I says, I got to do what you got to do to win, you know. So
How many years have you been now?
7 years.
Well, that's
7
a lot.
years.
So you did a lot of public service after retirement.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
been, it's, I can't tell you how satisfactory it is to myself.
Well, I have to ask you this, because I ask everyone
Okay.
this quickly. How old are you?
I am 73.
Wow, you don't look it.
Thank you.
And how much does the sheriff get paid?
Gets paid $81,000 a year.
And you also have your pension.
And I have a pension, yes. I
So-
don't get any, I'm not in any pension fund for the sheriff's office.
No,
I just
but for
take
the
my
state.
state police, yes.
That's right. So you're a double dipper in that
Yes, sir,
sense?
I am.
Okay, and you're proud of it? Okay.
Well, you've done a lot. So Sheriff, you've been doing a great public service, and I'm really glad they pulled you out of retirement. So therefore, you can serve the public even more, and should do it continually with good health.
That's
Well,
right.
thank you.
Best of success to you, Tony.
Thank you very
for
much.
coming.
Appreciate it.